Hi there, I'm Tim Allen and I'm working with Wise Moves, and we've heard from your local library and they've asked if we can show you how you can make some simple stop motion animation at home using items you can find around the house. And in this video what we want to look at is how you can create a festive or Christmas scenario within which to stage your animation, and also how you can use everyday objects to create animatable characters and start bringing your story to life. So, I'm a professional stop motion animator and I've worked on such projects as Fantastic Mr. Fox, Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie, Fifi and the Flower Tots, Roy the Racing Car, and this one here you may recognise. This is my Shaun the Sheep crew t-shirt. In fact, this is from Shaun the Sheep series 4. And I've been animating for 20 years. What I want to do is just look at how we can use everyday simple objects to make your animation. Now, I'm going to be working here. This is, well, you can see it's a fairly standard table. It's definitely not looking particularly festive right now. So bit by bit I'm going to try and build it up ready to set the stage for where we can make our animation. Now I've, for my background, to try and set the scene, I printed out a couple of just Christmas images. These are things I purely found online to give me a sense of a wintry wonderland. You can do something similar with anything that you find at home. I'm going to just glue tack these to the wall, but you can use decorations, you could use your Christmas tree, tinsel, anything you find around the house to try and give your background a little bit more, just a little bit more colour, a bit more life. Okay, and I'm using blue tack. I do recommend not using really old blue tack. It loses its stick after a couple of years. So we have a simple background. Obviously the snowy landscape in the background doesn't match the tabletop, and for that I've got this. It's an old towel. I've made sure I've not chosen Mum's finest towel. This is one that I don't mind too much if it gets a bit mucky. So I would check with whose towel it is before you find any towel. And I'm using this as a simple way of having a snow landscape. So I will put this over the table. And I want to have it relatively flat in the middle here, because this surface area where my hand's rubbing, that's going to be the area where my characters have been animated. And I don't want a very bumpy, ruffled up towel in this particular place. And what you can see in front of you here is my camera and my computer, and in a moment we're going to be using cloud stop motion to bring your work to life. And you don't have to use a computer or webcam. The software we're using, cloud stop motion, you can also use that on your phone, your tablet, or any other home computer, Mac, PC. Right, so my background's in place. It's a little on the flat and not so much undulating side. If you have a look at it from this angle, you can see it's a bit sparse. So to try and give it a little bit more of an undulating, snowy feel, I've got, this is purely the box for some Christmas decorations. I'll put that underneath the towel. And this gives, all this does is it gives a little bit more of an area where there's a slightly more undulating, snowy landscape. I do, however, want to keep any undulating areas away from where I'm animating. So again, where my hand is, that's where my characters are going to move, and I've kept that area nice and flat. There you go. So the undulating part is further away from the camera, and this is the part where my animation is going to take place. Okay. Now, at the moment it's still very sparse, so I'm going to slowly start decorating the whole place up. I've got some old, these are Christmas tree little decorations, and you can take any decorations that you find that you think would start to brighten your landscape up and give it a better feeling. And what I'm doing, I'm going to keep looking to camera here, because this, what we see under the lens, is what's going to be important. So effectively everything that I'm dressing is things that the camera's going to see. So right from the beginning, I get my camera in the place I'm going to animate, and then I start adding decorations as we go. And let's not forget that this will be the area my puppet will be animating, so I'm not going to put too many bits of decoration here. Okay, still a bit sparse, not to worry. I've got a Christmas tree. I'll put that in the background. That's obviously going to make things a little bit Christmassy. Okay, and one last thing I'm going to do. The other thing I've got here is, I think, something to really give the place some colour is this Christmas tree lights, and these I'm going to thread around the back of my set. Again, I don't want to get these too near to where the character's going to be, but I can spread these all around the back. Okay. This is purely to add some life, add some colour, and give a general Christmassy look. And of course, the little bonus with Christmas tree lights is that I can do this. There we go. Looking much more Christmassy. Okay, and here you can see what that's going to look like under camera. Didn't take too long at all. Right. The one other thing now I'm going to need is I'm going to need some characters, and for this I've just had a look at what Christmas baubles I've got, so basically tree decorations, and this one jumped out at me. The first one is it's a Christmas pudding. There we go. As you can see, it's quite thin and flat, and it's fabric. It's not going to be able to stand up as it is like this. If you see it on set, here we go. That's going to fall over very easily. So I want a way to try and fix that. And what I'm thinking is I've got a very standard wooden toothpick. Nothing special about it. And all I want to do with this is stab the Christmas pudding in the back, and I'm going to do it right in the middle, like so. My idea being that I'm going to see it a bit like a wheel, that this can rotate around the wooden toothpick. Now, and if I bring it back onto set, you can see how this is going to come together. Okay, so by itself that's not working so well, but if I have a blob of blue tack, the blob of blue tack I can use to poke the cocktail stick in, and as you can see that helps the Christmas pudding stand up nicely. And I can also start rotating the Christmas pudding around the cocktail stick without it falling over, like so. Okay, now it's Christmas pudding animation time, so we're going over to my computer. Okay, we are now looking at the stop motion software, and I'm using Cloud Stop Motion, which works through an internet browser, so you can use it on any device, a PC, a Mac, an iPhone, an iPad, an Android, any device indeed. And just to my right, you can see is where I'm shooting. And as we saw earlier, I've got a blob of blue tack and a cocktail stick holding up the Christmas pudding so he can rotate along and still remain standing. Now, going back to the main software, I want him to finish. He's going to roll and come to a stop around here. So what I would like to do is to have him in his finished position and roll him backwards, and that gives me an idea how much he needs to rotate, so I start him in the correct position, out of shot where he's going to begin. Okay, what we're seeing is the live image. You can see my hands there, and at the moment he's not in frame, but in a moment if I start him rolling you'll see his shadow starts to appear. So I'm going to capture a frame by pushing the capture frame button, and you'll see the frame appears down here. And I'll roll him a little bit more. Oh, he's now starting to come into frame. That's good. No, a bit more shadow first. So we're seeing 2 frames of the shadow before he comes into place. And now just the edge of the Christmas pudding. Capture a frame. And all I'm doing effectively is rolling him back, doing the opposite of what I did a second ago when I found his last position and then rolled him in reverse. I'm now rolling him the correct way, from front to back as opposed from back to front. I'm making sense to me, I'm not sure about you. Now, as you can see, he's not falling over, and that's again because what I'm doing is I'm moving the blue tack and the Christmas pudding at the same time, so effectively he's rolling off the cocktail stick. If I was to try and pull the Christmas pudding by himself, then he would start tugging on the cocktail stick and he might come out, which I don't want. So I move them both together, like so. Okay, back to the software. And you can see he's nearly in his end position. So I'm going to start slowing him down. And this time I'm going to do much smaller movements. The smaller the movements you do, then the slower he goes. If I do big fast movements, then he goes fast. Now, another thing I can do is use the left and right arrow keys to go through my animation frame by frame. And you can see I've intentionally done smaller and smaller positions, and I can now start moving him the other way. So left and right arrow keys go through the frames, and then you see my hand for the live frame at the end, which is the frame with the camera in. And I'm going to make him wobble the other way. You can see I'm checking it frame by frame. It's one of the wonderful advantages of working with cloud stop motion. I can go through my frames individually like this and compare them to the live image, which means I can have much greater accuracy and I can see very clearly whether I feel they're in the right place or not. But to be honest, learning to animate is something that takes years and years. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've got quite a well-developed instinct as to how much I think I should move it. But that comes with practice, and I can certainly tell you to begin with, I didn't have a clue how much to move the puppet. That purely came with time. Okay, and I'm now going to take a few more frames at the end for the hold. He's going to stay still, and we can push spacebar or we can push the play button and watch the animation back. Here we go. Lovely, he's got a nice little wobble as he settles into position. Exactly what I was after. Brilliant. Okay, that's the Christmas pudding done, and we're now going to go for another character, and this was a curious one. It's Santa. He is also a Christmas decoration. I've actually, the tassel that holds him off the tree, I've actually blue tacked to be behind his head so that that's not in the way and causing so much of a distraction. But okay, he's a very round shape like the Christmas pud too, but I'm going to go for a bit of a waddle, something like this. Okay, let's take him on the set and have a look. Now, as you can see here, he's quite prone to slipping over because of his shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use quite a big blob of blue tack on the back here, and because if I make it a bit higher rather than thinner, that way it can hide behind him fairly well, but it also keeps him pretty stable, which is what I'm after. And if we look at that on camera, you can see that you don't really see the blue tack behind him, and I can move him to the left and right a bit. If I move him that far, okay, now we can see the blue tack, but if I move him only to there or to there, it pretty much stays hidden behind him. Right, let's get animating. Okay, so my end position, I want him to finish somewhere like this, but I don't have to worry about him rotating in the same way. He's going to do a kind of wiggle. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. That's the look that I'm after. And again, I'll get his shadow out of shot and start taking frames with the capture button. And before he gets in, we're going to see his shadow start to appear. If you don't animate the shadow in, what tends to happen is that it looks like a character has just appeared, almost like they've teleported into position, which gives it quite a strange look. So we have him standing upright. I'm going to use the blue tack and start pivoting off the blue tack to give him much more of a big lean. Of course, if I lean him too far, he is going to fall over. But there's a kind of finding that happy balance between how far I want him to lean versus if I'm not careful, he'll fall down. And once again I can use the left and right arrow keys. You can see him coming into place there. I'll take that one just for fun. And now I'm going to make him lean the other way while still travelling. So he's coming more upright, but when I say travelling I mean he's moving from screen left into screen right. If you're working in a theatre, they say stage left or stage right, and we say things like screen left and screen right. And what that means is it's on the left of the screen or the right of the screen, or the left of stage or the right of stage. There we have it. And I can keep on checking him as I go. He looks a bit too much like he's sliding there, so I'll take him back a little bit. The idea is that this foot is kind of touching the floor. That's my way of thinking at it, that he's leaning on one foot and then the other foot. Something like that. And he's starting to lean forwards. So he's going to lean to the left, lean to the right, lean to the left, lean to the right. And what I'm trying to do is get a kind of slightly symmetrical amount of leaning. So the amount he leans left is the same amount he leans right. And back left. And by left, I obviously mean screen left. But again, he's still travelling to the right. He's still trying to make progress. And I'll do one last big move to the right. And what you'll note, and then he'll be in his final place. What you'll notice is that I'm doing big moves, big leans, and then small ones. Big ones, then small ones. And that's what we call slow out in animation. And it basically means when you get to the end of a movement, i.e. going left or right, you start slowing down. It's a bit like if you imagine doing a wave of the hand, the fast bit's in the middle, and when you get to your left, you slow down, you speed up again. You speed up, you slow down, you slow down, you start speeding. So it's at the edge of the movement where you're doing things a little bit slower. So we call it slow in and slow out, or ease in and ease out, with the faster movements being within the middle of the move. Okay, and he'll come roughly to a stop here. You'll also notice that I'm taking my hands out every time. And again, I'm using the left and right arrow keys to check his positions. And one last teeny movement, which will be my smallest slow out, to help him finish and get into position. There we go, and I'll take a few frames there. Okay, let's play that from the top. Dom, 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 dom. Or maybe I should say, ho, 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 ho. You get the sense of steps and a waddle. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, well that was Santa done, and I've got one more, but this one is rather curious. I've been using each shape to treat each object and taking their shape to try and decide how their character and their movement works. And this is a curious one. I have here a piece of tinsel. Now you can see it's fairly standard, but I've cut it very short. I was thinking, what can I do with this? I could either make a slithering snake, or I thought maybe something like a worm caterpillar. So I'm going to put him on set. Now I wanted to do a kind of worm effect, like so, or like a caterpillar. He won't actually stay in that position, so what I've done to be able to help him do so is, again, I've used blue tack to hide the blue tack behind him, and that way I can move the blue tack without touching the rest of him, and that will bunch him up and stretch him out. Bunch him up, stretch him out. That's my thinking. Right, but I'll do it with the blue tack behind, so you won't be able to see the blue tack. Now here's the caterpillar in his final position, and I'm going to start him as before, out of frame. I'll get him so his shadow's out of shot. I'll take a couple of frames at the beginning, and once more we're going to start to see his shadow. That's my hand. There you go, that's his shadow before he comes in. And I'm going to start to reach his head out as far as I can to get him nice and stretched into shot. And this is the part now where his tail, his bottom, would be coming into him. And I want to keep it working in that sense in a sequence, so that you see his head moving, then his tail moving, head moving, tail moving. So this way I keep the timing the same. Now I'm making it bigger. So what effectively he's doing is he's stretching out with his head. So he stretches his whole body down straight, and then he almost scrunches his body up by pressing his tail right up against his head. So it's about 3 frames moving the head forward, and then 3 frames moving the tail forward. And you can see again here that the blue tack is on the back of him. A bit hard to see, but it's just tucked away there where the camera can't see it. And I can go through this frame by frame with the left and right arrow keys, and you get a sense of what I'm doing. Tail forward head goes first, then the tail catches up, then the head goes. So you're seeing the tail catch up, it's now time for the head to move again. So it's about 1 position, 2 positions, really stretching, and then 1 last slow out, the same idea of fast move, big move, then a small move with the head. So the head's doing a big move, and then a very slow move. And now we start the tail to drag. And again, I'll do a bigger move, then another big move, and then a much smaller move, my slow out. Slow out, ease out, 2 terms that we use a lot. And now I'm going to do a much smaller move with the head, as if he's all scrunched up and he's relaxing a bit. And often it's nice to check your frames when you're doing smaller positions, because subtle changes make much more difference when you're doing small movements. There we go. And I'll take a few frames there in his final position again, which gives us enough time to get a good look at him before the shot finishes. Right, here we go. Lovely. I'm not sure what noise he would make. Squelch, squelch, squelch. Okay, so we've been looking at how you can create a scenario or a set piece within which to make your festive story. And also we've been using the shape of objects to start looking at how a character might move, and that in turn helps you to assign characteristics and even give a personality to objects just by looking at what shape they have and how you could imagine them coming to life. And that will be really useful when you start to create stories. So this is Tim Allen working with Wise Moves, and it's goodbye from me and from Santa and from Christmas Pudding and of course Tinsel Caterpillar. Happy animating!